All right, look at you. And look at you, beautiful people. Welcome to Circle of Champions and welcome to the Q&A for speakers, authors, and coaches. And look, if you are in the speaking industry, all of us in some way have been impacted by the pandemic. And, we miss live stages, we miss live events. I miss you. I hope you
Miss
miss
you
me.
too.
You miss, look, I hope you all miss Annetta too. We can't wait to get back on stage in front of a live audience. And
Yes,
I also miss going to events, don't you, Annetta?
I do. It's because so much of what we do is about giving, but it's also about absorbing. We're
It is.
constantly learning.
I think the only thing I like greater than teaching is learning. I love both equally.
Yeah,
And so I know you've been a student of success for 40 years. I'm
you're
just
not going to stop now.
There you go. And I've been a
And
student for 40 years and I'm never going to stop learning. And so what has happened over the last 12 months, right about now, it's been about 1 year since I did my last live event.
wow.
And what has happened is we've all had to find different ways for us to be impactful, for us to be relevant, for us to be profitable in our businesses. And tonight, we're going to tackle some of the most challenging questions that some of you have submitted. And what we want you to know is, look, we're all in this together. We're all figuring out new ways of how to satisfy our tribe, how to feed our tribe, how to stay fed ourselves, and how to make a difference out there in the world.
Hmm.
So if you are looking to do any of those things, then I want you to know you're in the right place. So we have some questions and we're going to tackle some questions and we're going to jump right on in. And
Okay,
so I know that you all didn't come for the introduction. You all came for the entree, not the appetizer.
not the appetizers, right?
So before we say anything, Annetta, though, before we answer the first question, is there anything you want to say just in kind of leading into this?
Just be compassionate with where you are and understand you don't have to have it all figured out,
That's
and that things will eventually go back to some semblance of normal, not the way we used to be, but be able to flow with what's going on now.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say that's really good. And if you feel stuck at times, you're not the only one. If you feel a little confused at times, you're not the only one. If you look at your bank account and say, "Whoa," you're not the only one. So,
Right.
with that said, let's get into the first question. And
Okay.
we have too many questions to actually take tonight, but we're going to take a few of them, and we haven't rehearsed our answers. As a matter of fact,
Yeah,
Annette,
I don't even know what the questions
yeah,
are.
what we're going to do is we're going to take about 4, maybe 5 minutes on a question. We'll share our thoughts on it, and then we'll move on to the next question. This is where I wish we had a timer. But here we go. More times than not, we want to help everybody. And if you're a speaker, that may be you. We want to help everybody we encounter. How do you know, or how do you determine who your ideal client is?
Well, there's a saying that your ideal client is you in the before of your before and after.
Repeat that.
Your ideal client is usually you in the before of your own before and after.
I
So
got it.
there has to be a reason you chose the specialty that you did,
Mm-hmm.
because 9 times out of 10, you were having an issue with that very same thing. So, what is it that you most needed somebody to tell you? What is the problem you were struggling with? And then find the people who are struggling with that same problem.
Yeah, and
And the
I think,
broader your audience, the fewer people you help.
yeah, I agree with that. Some say the tighter the niche, the easier it is to get rich.
Yes.
So you're not for everybody. You can't help everybody. I like what you just said, Annetta, about well, when you talked about things you've overcome, because you can't take people where you've never been. Now,
Right.
now I'm going to give you my quick answer to that question. I'm going to give you my business answer and then my heart answer.
Okay.
My business answer as to who is your, does it say who your ideal client is? is the person that can pay for your product or your service.
Okay, this
You know,
bottom line, this
if you can't
thing
pay
right
for
now.
my product or my service, no matter how much of a great person you are, you're not my ideal client. So the company that can pay you a check, because Annetta does corporate events, her ideal client is a company that can pay her fee.
And who appreciates the value of coaching and understands how it is a lot more cost effective to bring somebody up to the level where you want them than it is to get rid of them and hire somebody new
Yeah,
and go through that whole onboarding process.
I
It
agree.
just makes good business sense.
Yeah, so you don't always know who your customer, who your ideal client, and whether they can pay you, and that's what's called prospecting. You know,
Mhm.
you want to ideally invite people to want to do business with you, attract your clients versus chasing them. I don't know
Yes.
how you feel, but I just don't like to chase clients, Annetta. I don't
No.
like to come from that place of desperation as if I need the business. And that's why you want to become excellent at what you do, because the better you are at what you do, then you become in demand and people start chasing you.
And you become known for
Yeah.
the thing that you specialize in. And it's, you know, you and I both live by this credo, Bob. We always give more than what people pay
Yeah.
or invest
Yes.
in us.
Yes.
Because I don't think we know how to do it any other way, but it always has a positive return. Always.
There's a law called the law of compensation. And the law of compensation says that you will always be rewarded in direct proportion to the value that you bring to the marketplace. So if you're putting out more value than what you're actually charging now, we're going to get into some other things about charging in a little bit. Maybe the return doesn't come from the person, but God himself will make sure that you're rewarded for the value that you put out. So no, we don't know how to do it any other way. And I can tell you tonight, we're going to give big. We're going to give big. So that was my business answer, is the person that can pay your fee. My
Mhm.
heart answer is, whose pain do you feel?
Mm.
Because for me, I've always had a thing for the underdog. I've always had a thing to help people and to feel the pain of what others may be going through. So whose pain do you feel is a good question to ask yourself. Some people used to ask me, Annetta, why don't you go after the young people more? Okay, that's a good thing. Why don't you go after this race of people? And my answer would be, that's not whose pain I feel.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I won't one day do it. It just means that Jesus, my mentor, he was moved with compassion. You can actually feel the pain of people.
Yes.
So I felt the pain of our people, people that look like me and you. And that's who I designed Circle of Champions for initially. Now I have members that are from different countries and different races, but my pain, I still feel the pain of people like me and like you that didn't have a rich dad,
Yeah.
that didn't have a great support system. So
Yeah.
that's my heart answer, is whose pain do you feel?
And it also boils down to what problem can you solve? You know, Bob, I always start with what problem are people having?
Really important.
Because they don't care what you know until they know you can take care of what hurts them.
Yeah.
So to find your ideal client, whose problems are you solving and what are those problems? And is there a connecting thread among them? So that can help narrow it down too.
That's what I love about what you and I do, is perspective. Because when I put out there about whose pain I feel, it doesn't necessarily mean I can solve their problem. So all of your wealth and your income generally is the result of you solving a problem for somebody. So the person that asked this question,
Which creates another problem.
which does create another
Solve
problem.
one problem, then you got another problem.
Well, and that's where coaches come in, because,
Yeah.
you know, there's a, if I would love to teach the principle of spiral marketing, but you just kind of touched on it. So I'll just say a little bit about it. If I was helping somebody who wanted to learn presentation skills, and I coach them for 90 days, 6 months, and I help them with their presentation skills, they still have a problem after that because they may not have an audience. They may not have a product.
They
don't
may
have a
not have a
platform.
service. Yes.
Sorry, yes. So your goal and your mission as a speaker, as a trainer, as an author, a coach, is to know in advance, what are the problems, the pain points, what do they feel right now, and what are the things they're going to need? You should be like a doctor to kind of already have the prescription.
And, you know, if you notice, all the things Bob and I are talking about has nothing to do with us.
No.
It's about who you can help.
Yes.
And I think people tend to forget that because we want to tell people our credentials, what we've done, et cetera. Nobody cares because everybody is all about what's going on with them. So start there.
When I have a toothache, which I have, I really don't care much about your credentials at that point. I want to know that you're capable of doing this root canal and that you've done many.
Right.
But as far as reading up on your credentials at that point, just get rid of the pain for me. And
Yes.
really, that's what people are looking for.
Yes.
So I hope that answers the question for that first person. We're going to get into another question here. How do you determine the price? How do you determine how to price your product or your service? Now, this one is, I'll lead off on this one. First,
Okay.
I will say that there's almost no right price for anything. And I'll give you an example of this. Let's start with a very practical example. This water right here. What's the price of this bottle of water, Annetta? Do you know?
Let's just say $2.
$2. Okay. And there's some places that you can get this for $1. But at a movie theater, you are not going to pay $2. You're going to pay maybe $3 or $4. I took my wife to a play one time, same bottle of water. They wanted $5 for that bottle of water. And what do? Do I come back and tell my wife I'm not buying it because it's $5? But
No.
what it shows is that there's no one price for anything. So pricing is a science, and it's something you have to test. So for us, I'll let you share first, Annetta, just what have you learned about pricing? And then I'm going to tell you what I believe is the biggest mistake that people make when pricing their products.
Okay. What I heard someone say once, and this is one of my early mentors, no matter how much you charge for something, somebody will pay it. And no matter how little you charge for something, someone cannot afford it.
Wow. I didn't expect you to go there. I thought you were going to say somebody will pay it.
Yeah. No matter how much, somebody will. No matter how little, somebody won't be able to afford it.
Wow.
So it comes down to what is the least amount you can live with for the service that you're offering.
I like it.
And don't get into, as much as you possibly can, avoid the hours for dollars trap, because what you offer has much more value than putting a time on it.
So somebody right now, the lights are really going to come on for you on this subject matter, because the biggest mistake that I made and the biggest mistake that I think many of us make in the speaking, training, coaching industry is charging too little for what we do. We think if I charge too much, people won't buy it. And so we generally undervalue what we do. And I've done this and learned the hard way that bringing your price down doesn't guarantee more sales. As a matter of fact, for many people that don't buy based on their criteria being price, when you price too low, they devalue the product. They figure it's not worth that much. Okay, if you're a coach and you say that you can help somebody to earn 6 figures and my coaching fee is $200, there's something just not believable about me being able to get you to 6 figures and I'm only charging you a couple of $100s to do it.
Well, and then the other thing too is people aren't paying you for what you do. They're paying you for what you know. And what you know is invaluable. And I've had conversations with people with what I do in just one of the things I do, which is media training. And I've got 30 plus years of experience and history. that's invaluable.
Yes.
And when I need to, I can pull one of those memories, talents, skill sets out that we might not have even been focused on at the beginning. So your value is in what you know and the transformation you can help people get.
Okay, so you just put the nail on it just now and banged it in, because I was going to say people are paying for a transformation. So the million dollar question is, what transformation do you offer? You know, what happens in a person's life as a result of working with you? Okay, let's just say for many years, I helped people to build confidence as a speaker. So they came to Circle of Champions being afraid to speak in public and having the nervousness and the fright. After working with them, they were bold and confident and able to stand in front of an audience and not flinch. Well, that's the first level of transformation, but it translated into sales. It translated into them being able to present their product, their service without fear. And one of the reasons we undercharge with product and pricing is because we're not sold yet on our own product.
Oh, wow.
Give me a second, Annetta, because I'm feeling I gotta drill this one home. Yeah. You are your first buyer. If you haven't bought it, if you're not sold on it, then you can't sell it. So you have to be sold on your product. But guess who else? You know who else? You know what my first sale? I had to get sold on me, Annetta.
Yes.
I had to get sold on myself too, that I'm the right person for you to coach with or work with. So I would say the thing that causes us to undervalue or underprice at some level, you're not sold. Watch this. Somebody, you're a coach and you want to coach somebody. If you're not sold that you can get them to that next level, and that I want you to speak to this, then you're going to have trouble charging what you should charge because you feel responsible to get that person a result because they're paying you. So talk about that, because you coach a lot of people.
Well, one of the and I tell this story a lot. I had one client whose company wanted me to coach this person, and this person was not very keen on the idea. And our first conversation, they said, well, I'm telling you right now, I don't want to change. I'm not going to change. And I said, cool, I can't change you, but why don't you be curious as to what's possible? Do with it whatever you like. Change, don't change, doesn't matter. How about being curious? And they said, okay, I can do that. You know, and then I've had other people say, well, give me a guarantee. And I'll say, give me anything in life that has one. And then I'll be happy to have that conversation.
I like that.
What are you going to do with what we come up with? I don't have control over that. You do. But what I do know is if you do it, something positive will happen because, and here's where the experience comes in, I have a track record. I have people who have gotten this result in the past.
Yes, yes. And, you know, a saying I learned from one of my coaches is that you're responsible to people, but not for people. So you're really not responsible for their outcome. Two people can sit in a seminar side by side, get the same information, learn the same things, do the same things, but when they leave the seminar, they leave and they go out. I'm not responsible for their success. That's why when people come back to me and say, Bob, if it wasn't for you, I would have never been speaking. But Bob, if it wasn't for you, and I always point it back to them and say, yeah, but you did the work.
And I use my own story as an example. I was interested in coaching, but was still working in television news. And I went to a class one night on how to build your own consulting business. That one decision changed my life because I went to the class, I heard the instructor, she was talking about coaching. And at that time, people were like, coaching, what's that? And she made an offer. She said, for any of you who call me after this class, I will help you build your consulting business. I called her the next day at like 7 o'clock in the morning, thinking there would be a stampede to get to her. What she later told me, I was the only person who called. She took me under her wing. She was a master coach, and she's the reason I'm a coach. So there were 20 other people in that class. I'm the only one who
Wow.
took her up on the offer. And she said, it changed everything. And my life is a testament to that.
So let me say something really important about that. If you pay, say, $49 for a seminar or a training, you're going to have a desire to get a result because you paid for it. But if you paid $4,900 for the training, it lights a fire under you the more you invest in something. So I said that to say that when you invest, if you're wanting people to invest with you, of course, it's good that you are an investor in yourself and that you buy other people's products. You can't just want people buying your products and you don't invest in personal development. The way that Annetta and I met is because we were investing in personal development, going to trainings, flying all around the country and anywhere to get what we needed. And we were willing to pay any price, even when we couldn't afford it. I know for me, I'll speak for myself.
Yeah.
I was at a place where I couldn't afford a particular training. I couldn't stay at the hotel where the training was at. So I stayed down the street. I ate at Denny's. I did all of those things in the beginning so that one day I wouldn't have to do that. Now I stay in presidential suites. Now we do international travel. Now, the only thing that hurts me about this pandemic is I haven't been able to travel like I want to, but I'm about to, Annetta.
Well, the other thing too, people may be watching and go, what does this have to do with speaking? Everything. Because, there's a saying, beware the teacher who doesn't have a teacher. And if you're not constantly growing and investing in yourself, how are you going to take somebody else to the next level? And how are you going to feel confident in what you're teaching them if you haven't learned it?
Annetta, there's sometimes I've invested in a program. One of them was $15,000. I invested in it so that I could see how it worked, but watch also to see how it feels. Because if I'm going to ask somebody to invest $15,000, I want to know how that feels to them too. Oh, it was painful when I first did it, but now I know what somebody that invests that kind of money feels.
And you respect what they're investing.
And I do. So if I was to give a quick little backdrop story, I started off selling $5 cassette tapes. So in the speaking industry, that was my product. You don't just start out charging $5,000 or even $1,000, even though I think that for many of you, your goal, if you haven't gotten there yet, I have a thing on my wall that I put there many years ago, only $1,000 transactions and higher. And the reason why is because I learned a lesson from trying to charge low, and I kept doing this, and God being my CEO who teaches me all this stuff, because I didn't go to college to get it. He kept trying to tell me something that a mentor told me many years ago, and I didn't believe it. I had a mentor that says, Bob, go after the big stuff. It takes just as much effort to make a big sale, even a $5,000 sale, than it does to make a $500 sale. I didn't believe it because it's not logical. Not logical. It would seem that it's easier to sell a $500 program than it was a $5,000, until I kept thinking, if I bring the price down, I didn't know I was turning somebody off. Somebody said, I would have come to your seminar, but it was too cheap. I would have come, but it didn't cost enough. So they didn't believe it was that valuable. Now, I know everybody's doing free virtual conferences now. That doesn't mean we don't value it. Just means that right now you kind of have to do that and let people taste your
well
product.
That's where the appetizer and the hors d'oeuvre is.
Yeah.
In the complimentary sessions.
Yes.
But the dinner, you got to have a little more skin in the game.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. You do. And so what I would say is that, my biggest lesson that I learned about pricing, that pricing too low, it never worked for me. Those people complained more. They had more questions. They needed more service. They needed more attention. My diamond members, and Annetta, you've seen them, you know them. My diamond members don't even, some of them have invested up to $50,000. They serve in our events. They serve our client base. They're the most helpful. They're the least problem. And let me say one other thing that's a mindset shift for some of you all. Those people are easier to close because they're not closing based on a price that they can afford a lot of times. These are players with money, and that's who you want to sell to. So going back to the first question, who's my ideal client? Players with money, people with money, because they are the least likely ones to give you a hard time. Now, that's
And
just,
they're the action takers. And let me say something else. When you are really pouring value into someone's life, you're not teaching them in that moment. You're helping them develop a skill they can use forever.
yeah,
I still run into people who were in workshops that I did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm using that tip on this. I say this and this works. So that's when you know you are literally actually changing someone's life, and you can't put a price on that.
yeah. And so I think we're going to wrap this question because we have some other questions.
Okay.
But let's go back to the transformation you talked about. What is it worth for somebody that, say, has low self-esteem? So they come to you, the confidence coach, and you're going to help to build their self-confidence and their self-esteem. Well, I think in order to put a price tag or real value on it, what's the cost of low self-esteem? What is it costing them?
And that's my first question. What are you not getting
Right.
as a result of this? What is not happening in your life? What relationships are suffering? You know, what is your career doing or not doing? How often have you been passed over?
Yeah.
You know, and those things are painful. And that goes to the comment about the problem you solve.
Yeah.
If you can help someone see a situation through a different lens, and then by taking small steps to change how they respond or react in that situation, untold miracles happen.
Yeah.
You know, people have left jobs that were strangling them. They have left relationships that were just mentally and emotionally beating them down because of one shift in perspective.
Annetta,
That is just amazing.
Opens up a whole new world to them. We were doing an event, you and I, in either Orlando or Hollywood, Florida. There was a woman that wanted to come, but she had never flown before. She was in her 50s. And I told her that I really want you to come to this conference. And I even hooked her up with somebody to be with her on the plane. When she landed and I saw her at the event, first I was thrilled. You know, the first thing she said to me, that was no big deal. But for 50 years, she hadn't done it. And you know what else she asked me? When are we doing our next national event? It opened up a whole world for her.
Yeah.
And speakers and trainers and coaches out there, you can open up a whole new world for people. You are an expert at something. You've mastered something. You've conquered something. You have something that's amazing and awesome. And all you really need to do in order to sell it is you have to identify the steps to walk people through the transformation. That's what we do. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know how to do that, sometimes you need to come in contact with a coach or a trainer or someone that can help you you have the ingredients. You need the baker to come into your life that knows how to put those ingredients together and make an awesome cake. Right. From. And that's what Annetta and we're like the baker. So we get people together in a room. We see the potential. We pull it out of them. We challenge them. We put them in front of the room. When we do our 3-day training, Annetta, it's probably my favorite thing we do.
Yes.
And we see the transformation from day 1 to day 2 to day 3. It's why we keep doing what we do.
Because people are in tears because of the breakthroughs that they have. You know, it's almost like somebody
and they get paid at our event too. But keep going.
Yeah, and it's almost like somebody let them out of prison, and they didn't even know they were in there. You know, because we really do force you to do stuff that's, you know, that may be a little uncomfortable, but how else are you going to break through those barriers? You already know what you've got doing what you do. That's not what our trainings are about.
Everything you want is outside of your comfort zone. Even now, I have a video that I put out recently saying you need a gutsy move. You need a gutsy move for 2021. And For some of you, that gutsy move may be to raise your price a little bit. For some of you, I raised my prices today, Anetta. I spent some time on COC University, and I gave some people a chance to buy it while it was cheaper, but I'm raising the price because my life's work is there. And if you don't know what COC University is, go to cocuniversity.com. Over 100 teachings at the university, even the nitty-gritty stuff that we have reserved for coaching. It's there, and you can get it for a phenomenal rate. So I love the idea of pricing. We could spend an hour on pricing, but we do have some other questions.
Okay.
So we hope that's helping you. For those of you that are listening to us on Facebook Live, please put your comments in the chat. Also, if you have a question for us, put it there. If we don't get to it tonight, we'll get to it on the next session, because we're going to have to take 2 to 3 sessions to finish this list of questions that I have here. But feel free to put your comment or your question in the chat, and also like and share the video. We appreciate that.